There is Josh Watson.
Excellent. You are ready to go.
Lovely. Welcome everybody to this Regional Development Assessment Panel of Tuesday the 25th of March. My name is Karen Hyde and I'm your presiding member today. I declare the meeting open at 9:39. I would like to acknowledge that we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and are joined by people from other lands around the state. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters, and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with the RDAP Standing Orders 2024 under Planning and Development Assessment Panels Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the RDAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of those regulations. Members are reminded to announce their name and title prior to speaking. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'll introduce the panel members. As I say, my name is Karen Hyde and I'm the presiding member. Here in the room to my left, I have Clayton Hyam, who is deputy presiding member. Online, we have Heidi Hergert, who is our specialist member. And for part B of our agenda, from the local government, we have Mayor Peter Carter from the town of Port Hedland. And for part C, our local government DAP members, Mayor Jerry Clune and Councillor Natasha Colliver from the city of Greater Geraldton. Item 2 of our agenda, Councillor Camilo Blanco sends apologies. Item 3, members on leave of absence, none. Item 4, minutes of previous meetings are available on the DAP website. We move to part B of our agenda, which is for the town of Port Hedland. We're also joined by officers from the town, Srinivas Nanjagud Balankandra, Chaz Roberts and Kylie Davis. And we do have some presentations for this and I will announce those in a short while. First, can I please have an acknowledgement and confirm that all panel members have duly given consideration to all the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information, noting that there was an R13 direction response which was published on the 24th of the month. Could I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. Due consideration has been given by all. Next item, disclosures of interest. I haven't received any, but I would just like to ask Mayor Peter Carter, was this matter considered at a council meeting at all?
Sorry, no, it wasn't. No, it came straight to JDAP.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Did anybody have any other matters to draw to attention in terms of interest? No, no declarations for that particular item. So we move ahead then to our application and the presentations in that regard. This is for lot 5977 Hamilton Road and lot 2939 Roberts Road, South Hedland for mixed use retail shopping, including supermarket, petrol, fast food and daycare. And in accordance with the DAP standing orders, presentations are limited to 3 minutes. I've not provided any extension of time to that. So presenters are encouraged to focus literally on the main items in their verbal presentation. And after those presentations, I'll invite panel members to ask any questions. And after we've heard from the presenters, I will refer to the officers from the town. So first we have Tabitha McMullen, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Form, Building a State of Creativity, Spinifex Hill Studio. Tabitha, are you joined online by Brett Nannup and Raylene Button or not this morning?
Brett Nannup is an apology. But I guess Raylene hasn't made it into the meeting, has she?
Not to make a presentation, but if there were any questions, then
I think she might be an apology as well. I do have Vicky Wagner, who's on her way. She might pop in before we
Okay.
finish, but to answer any questions.
Okay, and you've got Paul Casoglo with you, and Paul's role is?
Paul is a member of the forum board and is here to observe.
I see. Thank you for that clarification. So Tabitha, when you're ready, I'll let you know when you get close to your 3 minutes. And we have seen both your submission within the RAR and also the submission that you made in request for presentation. So no need to read it word for word, just bring the salient points to our attention. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for clarifying that. And good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Hutt, for and all of the members of the Development Assessment Panel for having me here this morning. I do want to just briefly introduce Raylene Button. Even though she's not present, she was integral in creating this submission and is representing the Geraldton community as well as the Spinifex Hill Studio Aboriginal Council. Raylene Button is a Geraldton woman currently located in Port Hedland and is a highly respected spokesperson for the community. So I would just wanted to emphasize that I'm here simply conveying her words on behalf of the community. So yes, my name is Tabitha McMullen and I am CEO of Forum Building the State of Creativity. We do trade as Spinifex Hill Studio in Port Hedland. I'm an arts administrator, but I also have experience in local government and tertiary education sectors. As I only have limited time to present, I will focus on just some of the key context for the submission. Spinifex Hill Studio provides very important economic, cultural, health and well-being support for literally hundreds of Aboriginal community members from across the Pilbara every year. These attendees are among some of the most vulnerable in Western Australian society. Many are impacted by poverty, intergenerational trauma, family, domestic violence, and substance abuse, including, importantly, alcoholism. The original founders included Mothers Against Drug Use, actually, who established the Centre to fight against these problems in their community. And we've had a lot of success over the past 2 decades in creating a safe space where families and community members can come and gather. And the Spinifex Hill Studio Aboriginal Council has dedicated the site as a designated dry site for the safety of the community. And it enjoys a close community and spatial proximity to the neighboring Hedland Senior High School, which is a really important connection. So the key points lodged in our submissions remain as important considerations which justify the rejection of the proposition to grant approval to the use of tavern, which is not otherwise permitted. The reports that were submitted by the proponent and the town of Port Hedland do not adequately address the issue, and that's really why I'm here today, because it really does need to be adequately addressed. This is an immensely important issue for the community, which needs to be given due consideration with a full understanding of the context and relevant planning considerations, which are contained in our submissions, which, as you said, you've read, so that's great. There is currently no tavern in this area, and Forum has worked hard with the Aboriginal community establishing trust and establishing the amenity of the area, and we've spent decades of time and millions of dollars to get this right for the community. Introducing this new use to the area in the form of a tavern, which is not otherwise already in the area, is not the right decision and will undermine the amenity and purpose of the place. The tavern, as I mentioned, is not permitted use unless granted approval, and there is no justification in the current proposal. Rather, we have given adequate grounds not to approve it. So the basis for and details contained in the form submissions are in fact fundamental reasons for the RDAP not to approve the discretionary use of tavern. And it is on this basis that the RDAP is requested not to grant approval for the proposed tavern component of the development application. And I should just finally say that we are generally in great support of the rest of the development. We think it will add greatly to the area, but this particular part is quite inappropriate, and we are very, very happy to receive questions. And I am joined by Vicky Wagner, who is the chair of the Spinifex Hill Studio Aboriginal Council, another important contributor to our submission. Vicky is Yamaji Thinma and Warriorka, highly respected leader in the local Port Hedland community. And as I said, chairs the Spinifex Hill Studio Aboriginal Council.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much. I will invite panel members now if they have any questions of you, perhaps or Vicky. Mayor Peter Carter, did you have any questions of the presenter?
Not actually questions of the presenter. I mean, I've gone over this plan many times, looked at it for our community, and basically, I mean, it's a tavern. Yes, it's a tavern. There is no takeaway alcohol. It's a dining service they're going to offer. And I think it'll highlight the whole area. I mean, the town for our community is looking for somewhere else to go for dinner and have a quiet drink. And this is the quality and the operator of this tavern is a first-class operator. And they have other places.
Mayor Carter, at this point, we're just asking questions. I'm certainly
Okay,
happy
that's
to
fine.
take
Yeah,
your,
that's okay. Yeah,
your statement later. Did
yeah,
you have
that's
questions?
no, that's okay. That's fine. That's all right. That's fine.
All right,
No,
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Heim, did you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Tabitha, thanks for the presentation. I've read your documents there, and our approach is quite narrow in that we are required to deal with the planning framework. I'm wondering, from your point of view, where you believe we have, or it fails from a planning point of view. I understand cultural health reasons, but they're generally not reasons that we can use from a planning point of view. Do you have something more that you can give us that might assist in our deliberation?
The date provision specify in the second submission, which outline health and the negative impacts that come from health impacts. Importantly, they can explain what's happening in terms of the provision of production of work and those stories.
Yeah, so I think in our submission, which was presented on the 23rd of January, we point to the deemed provisions, Schedule 2, Part 9, Clause 67, which do kind of point to the risk of human health and safety, and I think it's important to understand that it's not just the particular site that is important to in terms of Spinifex Hill Studio, but everything that goes around it locally, nationally, and internationally. These are artists who are collected internationally. Essentially, the world is watching this center, and we really feel that we are already dealing with antisocial behavior and other things around the center. So I think introducing this use, even though it might be not takeaway, it certainly doesn't send the right message in terms of the amenity of the immediate surrounds and that community that we have established in terms of, so I hope that helps. And really the Spinifex Hill Studio Aboriginal Council is quite concerned that we will undo quite a lot of work that we have done in collaboration with the town of Port Hedland and the senior high school in creating a place for primarily cultural practice, community amenity and safety. And I think, that possible risk to human health or safety in the introduction of an element that we've worked hard to keep away from that site and immediate surrounds. And I think the position as well of the tavern immediately facing onto Spinifex Hill is an important consideration for us.
So you're perhaps suggesting that an operational management plan can't manage that situation or those concerns?
Correct. That's correct. It's the inevitable kind of interaction of community in and around the immediate vicinity that we're concerned about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to pick up on a point there that the deputy presiding member has started to introduce, and in response to your presentation, and just looking at the requirements of the proposed operational management plan that is part of the draft conditions that the town has afforded us. It does talk to operational activities and information and management activities to minimise impacts between different uses on the site and for adjoining properties. It also talks to managing deliveries and so forth without impact on the neighbourhood. It talks to safety and security measures, regulatory compliance. I mean, that's actually quite a holistic approach to operational management, which places the onus on the actual developer. And with this operational management plan, that would of course run with the land, not with just the use per se. That would be something that would be consistent here and across the entirety of the centre. So service station as well. So I'm just trying to understand how with those that reference to safety and security, regulatory compliance, and of course this would need to have a licence as well, which is another part of the legislation which is very closely monitored. Whether you would still have concerns or whether something else ought to be included in an operational management plan.
Yeah, I think we have reviewed the operational management plan requirements, and we don't think they adequately address the situation, which is that in an area where there's, I think strong community use, so the arena, the Hedland Senior High School, Spinifex Hill Studio, and plans for an arts and cultural centre across the road at the old TAFE Centre, to introduce this element, which is so incongruous with everything that we are have created and trying to create in that space. We don't have confidence that an operational management plan would fully mitigate, patrons under the influence of alcohol engaging with all of the other activities and uses around that development. I think it can only go so far. And as I said, I think just reiterating the point that we have visitors internationally coming to this place. We want to protect that amenity that we've worked so hard to build. And when the whole purpose arose out of an effort to get the community away from drugs and alcohol, it just seems like an inappropriate thing to build a tavern right next to that space that has been created for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the presenter at this point? All right, thank you very much for your presentation. I'll invite the next presenter to join us, which is Jeff Loxton from Turner River Developments Proprietary, in support of the application. And likewise, Mr. Loxton, I've allowed you 3 minutes and I'll let you know when you're close to that time.
Thank you. I shouldn't need 3 minutes. For Turner River Developments, we've reviewed the RAR and the toing and froing between the Secretariat and the town in relation to the conditions. We're generally supportive of all of the conditions. We think they're workable. We did request.
Mr. Loxton, could you just speak up a little bit?
Sorry. We did request a review of 2 conditions. One, I think, has been addressed between the town and the Secretariat. I think condition 9 related to the construction management plan, and when that needs to be submitted is outstanding, and we would like that to be reconsidered so that we have to submit it with submission of a building permit, not prior to, and that's simply for procedural efficiency.
Okay, thank you. Does that complete your presentation? Thank you. Back to the order of the meeting. Mayor Carter, did you have any questions of the presenter? Mr. Loxton, please stay where you are. Thank you.
No, I have no questions for the presider. That's fine. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Hyam, did you have questions of the presenter?
Wondering if Mr. Loxton understands that prior to the lodgement of a building permit, could be the day before or at the same time.
So it says it needs to be lodged and approved prior to building permit. And the reason in that procedure is once we engage a builder, they have their own methodologies and site layouts and so on. They prepare their own specific plan for their construction technique.
Okay. You've heard Ms. McMullen's presentation. Is there anything that you would add to an operational management plan that might give the Spinifex studio some, I suppose, indication that you're serious about managing the operation to not impact?
Certainly. So the proposed operator for the venue, the experienced operator in the Pilbara, they operate Cranberry Tavern in Karratha, they operate in Karratha Town Centre. They understand the nuances of Pilbara. They're on the Pilbara alcohol court, very active. The police managing that, and very successful in the other venues. I think they'll be a very good operator, sensitive to the local issues. It's under the use. It's a tavern because that's what fits under the framework. It's actually being proposed as a family-friendly restaurant and tavern. So it's not a beer hall. It's not a beer bar by any stretch.
Thank you.
The item was up to the design review panel. Could you explain how the proposal responded to some of those issues raised?
The design review panel was generally supportive of the development. There was some issues around pedestrian connectivity, which we've addressed. We've introduced raised crossings in the car park, connections through to Hamilton Road, interface with landscaping to the proposed landscaping on Hamilton Road, taken by the town. It's been updated. Was there anything specific in the?
No, there were no specifics in the RAR, so that was the reason for my question. But that's okay. You've answered me adequately. Thank you. So besides condition 3 and condition 9, you're comfortable with all the other conditions? All right. Thank you. If there are no other questions of that, Ms. Herger, yes, questions.
Through the presiding member, has the applicant brought the traffic consultant with them, or are they actually present at the meeting? It's hard to tell because I'm on Zoom, so.
No, we haven't.
No, they have not.
So sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, please put your question because it's possible Mr. Loxton may be able to answer.
Okay. All right, I have a few questions. I think actually it might be more appropriate to vet them to the council rather than to the applicant because they're quite technical in nature. So
very good. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So if there are no other questions of the applicant, we'll let you go, and we will at this point refer to the officers. Mayor Carter, did you have any questions of the officers at the town?
No, I'm fully aware of what's the project. That's okay. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, I'll let the town sum up at the end, but we'll put some more questions to you. And then if there are any gaps, then obviously the town can fill in with a few other statements. Ms. Hergert, would you like to put your questions to the town just now?
Yep. I have a number of them, so bear with me and be patient. They relate specifically to the transport impact assessment prepared by Irby on behalf of the applicant. There's a number of elements in this particular application, inclusive of service station, childcare center, shopping center tenancies, tavern, and supermarket. Is there any particular reason, or has the town, when they were reviewing the actual transport assessment, consider the fact that there are a number of competing elements in this particular proposal that would give rise to looking at them not so much individually, but individually on their own, and then assessing whether or not there's a level of interrelationship or synergy between the uses on the site, passing trade, the fact that potentially someone at the fuel station goes and gets a hamburger in the drive-through or does a shop. Lumping them all together as a shopping center, it's a concern for me, and I'd just like to know why the town has actually accepted the traffic generation as just two elements, shopping center and childcare, rather than looking at a fuel station, the fast food tenancies, a shopping center, the tavern, and the childcare. It is interesting to me how that's been approached, and it gives rise to a number of concerns I have. So that's my first question. I have a number of other ones.
Okay, over to the town to respond to that, please.
Okay, the planning, Chaz, do you want to take lead on this one, that question?
Yep, I can answer that. Thank you for the question, member. In regards to the mixture of uses, both properties are zoned mixed use, as per the town's local planning scheme number 7, which includes separate parking requirements for each of the respective uses, which are all capable of approval within the zone. The town has assessed the parking provision, and the parking provision meets the scheme requirements. In regards to access, there are 4 access points proposed to the site of 2 street frontages, and there is a separation of service delivery vehicle access for the supermarket, and there's separate access for the proposed fast food outlets. The town of Port Hedland has a agreement with the developer for this land in regards to the town providing a roundabout accessing the property from Hamilton Road. Hamilton Road is a major connector road between Port and South Hedland, and already has quite high traffic volumes. In regards to the separation of uses and the trip generation from those, we believe that the multiple access points to the site, combined with the number of parking bays provided, and the nature of the parking provided, will be adequate. In regards to the childcare centre, there are drop and ride bays at the front of that centre. It's anticipated that for the fast food outlets, a considerable proportion of the traffic generated will be drive-through, and both one of the facilities has a double lane access, the other a single. And yeah, in summary, the town believes that the road network is capable of sustaining the mixture of uses, and the parking facilities provided on site will be satisfactory for the mix of uses.
Okay, back to you, Ms. Hergert, if you've other questions.
Okay, that didn't exactly answer my question. as to why the assessment, why the consideration in the context of the technical assessment didn't do it the conventional way that's industry accepted. My question wasn't relating to parking. I'm satisfied with the parking, but I'll move on. Now, in terms of queuing analysis that's been raised by the town, there's several elements in this proposal, namely the service station and the 2 fast food tenancies that have a drive-through facility. Was there a queuing analysis done for the fast food because they're both right next to one another in a limited car park? And also in the context of the service station on what we call cheap fuel days, typically Tuesdays in Perth. I don't know what it is in the Pilbara or if in fact it exists. But even just a queuing analysis for the baseline, was that undertaken as part of the transport assessment?
Chaz,
I'll
Chaz,
divert to both myself and Srinivas. We're not traffic engineers, so I'll qualify that response. We're town planners. In regards to the detail contained within the traffic impact assessment, I'll divert to the assessing officer, Srinivas, to answer that.
So with the queuing analysis, they were a bit lacking information that the town wanted to further assess it. As part of our assessments, our engineers have requested further information, and that's why, as highlighted in the RAR report and the condition, further minor assessment needs to be undertaken for the town to consider those queuing analysis and other information requested.
So queuing analysis to include the fast food tenancies and the service station, and then the service station in particular on the cheaper fuel days?
Yes.
Okay. Next question. Why was a Sidra analysis not undertaken at the node where the roundabout is going to go in? And I know that's approved and planned and potentially even under construction as we speak. But in the interim, is that particular those roadworks going to be completed by the time this shopping center is commissioned? What's the timing on that one?
Chaz or Sri, either of you would like to answer?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So the agreement with the developer is that upon the developer lodging a building permit for construction of the project, the town shall proceed to construct the roundabout and complete the roundabout by, I believe it's the 31st of December 2026. And the building permit lodgement date is, I believe, either 30th of June or 1st of July 2025. So while the project is constructed, the town would construct the works in the road reserve.
Okay. Is the town confirming that the delivery of those roundabout works effectively providing a higher level of traffic control at that major node where people are coming in and out of the proposal could potentially be delivered after the shopping center is opened and fully commissioned?
I believe that this is one of the points that our engineers had raised in regards to the modelling. They would like to see modelling for the project without the roundabout, and that's highlighted in the report.
Okay, which answers my next question, which was it assessed as a give-way T intersection under the worst case scenario without the roundabout in place, but with full build out on the site? I'm assuming the answer is no. I'd like that confirmed by the town.
Okay, Sri or Chaz, any response?
I'll divert to Sri on that.
The answer is no. That's why our engineers wanted to see that analysis without a roundabout consideration. And that's why we've asked that in the revised TIA to see those details.
Okay, last question. This might be to the planner. Is there a medical consulting room component to this development? I've seen shopping center, and then later on in the RER it says medical center, and then in the drawings it says medical center.
Chaz, did you have a response?
No medical center use is proposed. A chemist is proposed, and there are 7 or 6 shop tenancies. but not a medical centre land use. That may be a clerical error if that's referenced in the report.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hergott. Mr. Hyam, did you have questions?
Do, thank you. Just as a follow-up to the traffic impact assessment, if this gets approved and condition 8 is adopted, which is a revised traffic impact assessment, would those changes that could occur as a result of that be quite significant and be a very different outcome to what we see before us today?
We think that's unlikely.
Do you want to elaborate?
The development included a traffic impact assessment as per the WAPC guidelines, and that traffic impact assessment was referred to the town's engineers, who are qualified and experienced to review traffic impact assessments, and their advice was that the development is able to be supported. They just wanted to see some extra modelling, which is the rationale behind the development condition for a revised TIA.
Thank you.
Other questions did you have?
Or are you satisfied with the proposed or requested changes by the applicant to conditions 3 and 9, I think it is?
Chaz, over to you.
Yeah, in regards to the lot amalgamation condition, yes, we accept that the lot amalgamation could be split out so that it's to be completed before occupation and use. In terms of condition 9, just as a general, for our development assessments, we are trying to work through grouping conditions into phases of the implementation of a project. So prior to lodgement of a building permit is phase 1, and prior to occupation or use is phase 2. And then we go into general conditions, which are ongoing. So our preference would be to keep those clearance of conditions in a 2-stage process. However, we acknowledge the applicant's comments around wanting to receive a building permit before lodging the CEMP. There may be some kind of a delay between the permit and commencing construction, which may be the time to which the builder provides the CEMP. So if the panel were minded to support the change by the applicant, officers, we could live with that.
Chaz, the wording of these staged conditions, do you interpret conditions to be cleared prior to lodgement of the building permit to include all works? Do you presumably in that respect don't envisage any other commencement to the development?
Yeah, it's just about trying to achieve operational efficiency and the clearance of development conditions. So we don't expect works to be commenced prior to a building permit. It's really that the updated information relating to the planning approval is provided prior to building permit stage.
Right, because my question was around matters concerning stormwater, also traffic impact, and wondering whether those things needed to be prior to commencement. But your phrasing here is that prior to commencement, in your view, is prior to lodging for a building permit. You're not anticipating any other earthworks or anything else prior to building permit. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And in particular with stormwater, it can have some minor impact on the location of buildings if there are open swales that need to be provided across the site. And so we believe that is definitely an important condition that requires resolution prior to a building permit.
All right, lovely, thank you. In terms of condition 17, which talks about verge landscape to be retained, I couldn't see anything in the conditions which talked about protection of verge landscaping, and I wondered if that was something that you might ordinarily put into your CEMP.
Yes, it could be contained within the CEMP. There is some relatively recently constructed verge landscaping adjacent to the site, and so the reference is to that landscaping. We could include within the CEMP an additional point around tree protection in accordance with the relevant Australian standard, which would typically involve fencing the landscaped area from the construction work zone.
Okay, thank you. And I think that was all I had in terms of the public art condition is worded in an interesting way, in that there seems to be quite a lot going on prior to lodgement of a building permit. Could you just explain to me your understanding? This is about presumably the applicant choosing options A or B prior to, with the building permit, rather than, obviously completing everything.
Yes, this is I guess more about forecasting if the applicant does opt for a cash in lieu option, so that we know that whether there is a cash payment coming for our public art contribution fund. So we would like to know that before the project starts, and have a definitive timeline on that.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions from panel members of the officers at this point? Yes, Mr. Hyam has one.
Just one more. In relation to the operational management plan, is there an opportunity to include in that some form of liaison or relationship with other users in the vicinity, including the Spinifex studio, between the two managements, so that there's some collaboration in terms of the operation of the tavern?
You could put in a point which includes a requirement for consultation with potentially affected nearby landowners. It would be unusual to see that in a development condition. In terms of the liquor licensing process, if the project is approved and is built, then there is a public advertising process associated with applying for a liquor license, which would include the ability to lodge submissions, a public interest assessment, and those type of activities linked to the liquor licensing process. So it could be dealt with by that, or if there was a concern from the panel, you could add the requirement for consultation into the development condition.
I'm not referring to a one-off consultation. I'm referring to an ongoing relationship between the management of the tavern and the management of the Spinifex studio. So there's a constant liaison between the groups.
Yeah, look, I haven't seen that before in a development condition, but so the panel would have to satisfy itself whether it believes that that's appropriate to apply.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. If there are no further questions, then I might move ahead with the item before us. So we have a responsible authority report which sets out for us a recommendation to approve this development subject to a number of conditions and advice notes. So I'm seeking a mover, please, for that as the primary motion. Do I have a mover? Mayor Carter, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Mr. Hyam seconds. Mayor Carter, as mover, would you like to speak to the primary motion?
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Officer. Look, this development has been a long time coming. Yeah, living in the town for 15 years and part of our community, basically looking for options for dinner, looking for a new supermarket, the whole complex. It sits itself quite right in our community. I know the Spinifex Hill studio next door. I think this development will actually enhance that facility, people being around the area. It'll be a lifeblood of the area. It'll actually basically encourage people to actually probably even go and visit more the gallery, being in that area, because a lot of people don't really know where it is. And having this development next door, I think it will help Spinifex Hill Studio. I know a lot of the artists there very, very well. And I think this whole project, I mean, as I said before, there is no takeaway alcohol. It's in-room dining. The operator who's going to operate it is a smart operator from the Pilbara who understands the Pilbara, understands the problems for the Pilbara. The takeaway area, the IGA complex, the news agency, I'm sorry, the service station, the whole area, as you're driving in the side, I think it brings a lot of life to the town. And I think the planning guys have done a fantastic job working with the developer to make sure they get it right. And I understand the concerns from the Spinifex Hill Studio, but also see the benefit to them as well. So that's why I'm supporting the office recommendation to approve this development.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. Mr. Hyam, as seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Yes, look, I am supportive of the proposal generally. I understand the concerns that have been raised by the Spinifex studio. I would hope that there's a very strong relationship that can be developed between the operational side of the tavern and the operations studio to iron out any issues that do arise. They will arise from time to time, but I would imagine there is a real opportunity to have a very strong relationship there to make sure going into the future that those issues are minimised. I would like to propose
Yes.
one is to, I'm just trying to find the condition around lot amalgamation.
Number 3.
Number 3. With the wording that was put in the R13 direction. So a lot amalgamation would read arrangements must be made to satisfaction of the town of Port Hedland at the cost of the applicant for the amalgamation of lot 5977 Hamilton Road and lot 2939 Robert Street, South Hedland into one certificate of title. The amalgamation must be completed prior to the occupational use of the development. So that's alone rather than
Yes.
the wording that currently to deal with each one.
And that would renumber, obviously, those other conditions
Yes.
sitting under prior to lodgement.
Yes.
Yes, I'm happy to deal with that singularly at this point. I'm happy to second that as amending motion 1. Do you want to explain any further?
Well, I think it's fairly self-explanatory in that this is a process which often takes quite a long time, and it's clearer, or it provides clarity as to when this will be completed.
Thank you. I don't need to say anything further. Did other speakers wish to speak on this amending motion only? Let's vote on the amending motion then. Those in favour? That's a unanimous decision. Thank you. Back with you, Mr. Hyam. You had a further amendment.
Condition 9, as it is, well, let's go in order. Condition 4, I think the officers suggested a revised condition wording of condition 4 public art.
Yeah, just cover the key points that change.
It's simply clarifying the process and selecting one of the two options. And then there is a further condition 16, which is related to it. Public art shall be implemented or prior to the occupational use of the site. So you've got one condition.
2 references.
And 2, that's right.
Okay, I'm happy to second that. Did you wish to say anything further on the
No.
motion? Is everybody clear on what we're doing there? We're providing clarification on how the public art agreement should occur at what stage, and then the implementation of that at a later stage. Any other speakers on that amending motion? We'll put the amending motion to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Back with you, Mr. Hyam.
In condition 9, as it is presently, construction environmental management plan, going back to the R13 request from the applicant, to be lodged prior to the commencement of construction or with an application for building permit.
Okay, so that's adding those words.
Yes.
I'm happy to second that again. Did you wish to say anything further?
No, that's just recognising the processes that need to take place.
Okay. Thank you. Did any other speakers on that amending motion 3? That's as per the applicant's request. Let's take a vote on amending motion 3. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Back with you, Mr. Hyam.
That's all from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Other speakers, Ms. Hergert, did you wish to speak on the primary motion with those amendments in place? No?
No.
All right, thank you. I will speak to the motion. I think that I'm comfortable that this generally fits within the planning framework. I note that it was advertised. It was advertised for a full month, where policy requires 14 days. And actually, I think it's generally only speaking a service station, which is an A use, all the other uses are D uses, which doesn't necessarily require advertising. So I think the local authority has done the appropriate thing in advertising the full application for a month, and recognising that it was a difficult time of year, but nonetheless there was an extended advertising period. There's a relatively new planning framework in place too here, so I'm comfortable that these matters have been considered again through the preparation and review of that planning framework, and that this mix of uses does meet the objectives of the scheme, subject to a number of controls and management. And I think that's really where we're focusing our attention today. And it's important that those controls and management aspects are in perpetuity for the use, and that they are reviewed and enforced by the local government as a requirement of the conditions of approval. I did ask some questions around the proximity of service station and childcare, and I was comfortable with the response that I received from the local government, that there is adequate separation distance, that there are tenancies between those two activities which provide something of a buffer, and therefore I'm comfortable that that meets the guidelines set by the EPA. I'm aware and thank the presenters for drawing our attention around the proximity of the tavern to the Spinifex Hill studio. But I do think that could be covered by an operational management plan. And indeed note that there are separate legislative requirements for a licence to be issued by the state government. So I think there are sufficient details as well in terms of the design, architecture and landscape supported by the design review panel, subject to a few minor updates with which the applicant has responded to. And I'm comfortable, having had the explanation from the planning officer around those matters raised by Ms Hergert, that the condition for a revised traffic impact assessment can cover off all of those essential technical details that Ms Hergert has drawn to our attention. However, there are a couple of amending motions that I would like to make, and that is to condition 9, and I would like to introduce a new item K and renumber K to L, and that item K would be protection of retained verge landscape in accordance with Australian standards. That's amending motion 4 to condition 9. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Mr. High. I'm happy to second. My reason for that is simply, as Mr. Roberts pointed out, there's been some new vegetation. It's really important to retain streetscape amenity in this area, and I think it's a natural addition to a construction environmental management plan, and other conditions of the proposed approval talk to the ongoing retention of those assets. Any other speakers for or against that amending motion? I will put that to the vote. Those in favour of that amending motion? That's unanimous. Thank you. And I have one further amending motion that I would like to add to the operational management plan, which is at condition 13, and that would be to add letter G, which is ongoing liaison and consultation with adjacent landowners to ensure compatible operational management. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mr. Hyam is happy to second. In speaking to that, it's really just to take account of the submissions that have been made, understanding the fairly unique circumstances that we have here in South Hedland and the proximity of these uses, the acceptance of that by the officers to include that as part of an ongoing operational management plan. Did you wish to say anything more, Mr. Hyam?
No, I'm very happy to support that.
Any other speakers for or against that amending motion?
No.
I'll put that amending motion to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. I don't have any further amending motions that I wish to make, but with all of that in place, I'm happy to support the motion in front of us. I'd therefore like to refer to Mayor Carter as the mover to take the right of reply and close debate.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Yeah, once again, I think it's a wonderful development. It's a development that the town is looking forward to in our community. I hear all the concerns from Spinifex Hill, and I just still really hope that the developer who can get together and work on a plan, a long-term plan, working together collectively, because that's what our community needs, is developers and a community working together to make sure we have the best outcome for our community. It's a great project, and I'm really looking forward to making sure this project comes online as quickly as possible. It's a new eatery, it's a new childcare, new service station, a new supermarket. It's going to really enhance our town. And once again, Presiding Officer, I look forward to supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll put this matter to the vote. The primary as amended. Those in favour? Those against? Ms Hergert votes against. The rest for. The motion is carried 4-1. Thank you. And at this point, 3-1. Oh, 3-1. Pardon me. Yes, can't count. The motion is carried 3-1. Thank you. And at this point, we thank Mayor Carter and the local government officers and those in attendance making presentations on this matter, participation, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. the panel members to remain on screen. And we then invite our panel members for Part C from the City of Geraldton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Need a break or are you okay?
I was gonna say.
Somebody's got an active crow in a tree nearby.
Yes, that's us in Geraldton.
Thank you. All right, welcome to the City of Geraldton officers and elected members. Is that correct? We're all in the room together?
Yes.
All right, very good. So welcome Mayor Jerry Clune and Councillor Natasha Colliver, our local government DAP members, City of Greater Geraldton. The remainder of the panel remains the same. Myself, Karen Hyde, as presiding member, Clayton Hyam as deputy presiding member, and Heidi Hergert as our specialist member. We also have officers from City, Nereda Brown and Heath Martin are available on Zoom as well. First,
sorry, presiding member, just a correction. So Heath Martin's not attending, and my name is Ryan Hall. I'm the Director of Development Services.
Ryan, apologies. Thank you very much. First of all, I'll seek declarations of due consideration. Can panel members please raise hands to acknowledge they've given due consideration to Part C of the agenda and Part C related information? Lovely. Show of hands by everybody, due consideration given. I've not received any disclosures of interest. Did members have any disclosures to make? Was this matter considered by council? Could the elected members confirm yes or no?
No, it wasn't considered by council.
That's great. Thank you very much. No other disclosures of interest on this item?
No.
Lovely. Thank you. We will move ahead then. So at item 3 we have DAP application for lot 203 Durlaka Street, Geraldton, proposed service station, associated access, car parking and landscaping. We do have a presentation today. We will need to note Ms. Bumbach's written presentation. She's not able to join us online or in person today, but we did all receive that written presentation. So we only have one presentation from Mr. Josh Watson, Planning Solutions. In accordance with the DAP standing orders, clause 482, presentations are limited to 3 minutes. I'm sure you're aware, Mr. Watson is a regular presenter. There's no extensions granted at this point, so I'd ask you to identify the main aspects in the 3 minutes that you have. I'll then open for questions from panel members, and then after that, I'll invite panel members to talk to the local government officers. So with you, I'll remind you when you're close to time.
Thank you, presiding member and panel members. I'm Josh Watson from Planning Solutions. I'll be speaking in support of 711 at 179 Durlaka Street, Geraldton. We're pleased to see the proposed development recommended for approval today. And I'd firstly like to thank the city, Ryan, Nereda and the team for their positive recommendation to the panel today. We've worked with the city's planning team from pre-lodgement all the way through the assessment. I think that's clear in the recommendation put towards the panel today. The proposal seeks to develop a 7-Eleven service station on the undeveloped portion of the shopping centre where the existing IGA supermarket is. The development will support the ongoing retail operations on this site. The proposed service station has been designed to address the sloping landscape of this portion of the site and also improve and around the amenity of the area. By cutting the development into the site, we've been able to ensure a flat vehicle access into and throughout the site. In addition, this has also enabled the design to better integrate and address the amenity considerations of the surrounding residential around the property. This design also includes a new public art feature, which will front Queen Street, which will also be supported by substantial landscaping within the verge area. The proposed development has also been supported by the necessary technical assessment from traffic, acoustic, landscaping, and this has all been reviewed by the city and confirmed to be suitable. Each of these technical assessments are pretty in depth, and I thought I'd just address one of the considerations from the objector in the written piece. The traffic analysis that has been undertaken demonstrates the road has suitable capacity and tolerance post-development, as well as in 10 years post-development. As outlined in the traffic report, service stations are not a huge generator of traffic in their own right. They largely take on customers through passing trade. So 60% of patrons are already on the road network. And this has been factored into that traffic analysis. And that has confirmed that the impact of this development on the existing road network is minimal. Moving into conditions, the conditions proposed in front of the panel today have been reviewed by us, and we confirm our satisfaction to these. Also reviewed the R13 request condition, and we're supportive of that condition as well. We do not request any changes. All in all, we're supportive of the officer recommendation, and we thank for their assessment and working with us over the last 6 or so months. We consider the development works well with this site and be an important commercial use to support the ongoing retail operations. Request the panel support the proposed development today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Watson. I'll refer to the elected members online. First of all, Mayor Clune, did you have any questions of the presenter? Sorry, I couldn't hear if you did. Oh, there we go.
Yes, so we got cut off there, which is nothing unusual for me when I start talking. The traffic impact assessment it was measured on the 1st of July, one of the impacts, and there seems to be a lot of data taken from that. I'm just wondering, were there any measurements done on other days besides that 1 July?
No, so the 1st of July was the only date the measurements were taken. Important to note in the analysis that's been undertaken, it assesses the situa of the intersections and also the level of service provided to those intersections. And there's a degree of I suppose capacity in these street networks, and that's been demonstrated to be satisfactory, even though the analysis was only undertaken on that one day. With discussions with the traffic engineer, they felt comfortable that that was satisfactory for them to understand and put a pretty detailed assessment together to inform the development application.
Thank you. Other questions, Mayor Clune?
No.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Colliver, did you have any questions of the applicant?
Yes, I do, please. Control of the obtrusive effects of outdoor lighting. How is this going to be achieved for the local residential properties surrounding that site?
Yeah, so we'll be doing one of the conditions that's proposed by the officers is to do a lighting plan, and that actually, in that lighting plan, it shows how lighting is to be directed and to ensure that it is baffled and directed only on the site. Canopy lighting generally does that anyway by being under the canopy and directing straight down. But we're confident this can be demonstrated as part of that lighting plan, and there's an Australian standard to it as well. But we'll provide that information to the town, or to the city, sorry, prior to construction.
Thank you. Councillor Colliver, any further questions?
Just one more, if I may. Was there any consideration given to being able to keep the 2 mature trees that are on the site?
There was some consideration. We're also having to deal with light, and unfortunately, where those trees are located is at quite the portion where we're digging into the site further. So to offset that, we wanted to actually provide more landscape, more street trees to improve that. But unfortunately, we're unable to retain that tree due to the amount of cut that was required in that portion.
Thank you. Any further questions from the elected members?
Just one more, if I may. In terms of the landscaping plan and the public art work that you're going to do on that wall, do you have a timeline for that, for when we can expect that to be completed after construction?
Our intent's to do it all as one. Not to leave a blank wall. Ultimately, I think blank walls aren't a good outcome. So we want to, and it's best to have our various workers and the like all on site at once. So and present that occupation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other panel members, questions? Ms. Hergott, did you have questions? No? Okay.
No, I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Hyam, did you have questions?
Yes, Josh, I raised the issue of circulation and cheap fuel days and those sorts of things. The response that I got suggested that if someone had a caravan boat trailer, they would only use Bowsers 1 and 2. I'm not sure that people decide how they're going to do it. They'll go to the first available one or get behind the shortest queue. Are you quite happy that there is still ability for that circulation to occur behind those vehicles when they're queuing?
Yeah, so this service station is actually, most service stations that you find that when they're designed, they actually don't have this amount of movement, especially between the canopy and the bays that are located at the front of the store. So we have a significant amount of room that allows for that movability of caravans and boats and whatnot that's required. Because ultimately we've been required to have that amount of space to allow a 20-metre B-double tanker to run it around. So the comment around caravans like 1 and 2, observations from service station providers over the time, most service stations actually aren't designed to cater for those types of vehicles anyway. But when they do visit, they often the easiest Bowser for their manoeuvrability. So people often know they're towing something big and they don't want to get stuck. So that's more of a visual assessment on other service station types. So looking at this site, this is one that has a significant amount of room, more than what I've seen on other service station sites. So we're quite comfortable that can work. And utilising the 10-metre swept path for the service vehicle, that's a good recognition to show how that caravan will come around and manoeuvre if necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, please. Some of the submissions raised issues around the noise assessment that was done in a windy place like Geraldton. Your consultant's consideration of worst case analysis and whether wind would have an impact on the carriage of noise?
So my understanding of the acoustic report, they use meteorological general data from the location, and our understanding that was an appropriate level that was provided, and I think that's been reviewed by the city's officers to be considered to be satisfactory. So the acoustic report at the end of the day is a model. So it's not a true reflection until you actually developed it and put a noise logger on there and confirm. So we're using the best case scenario that is available to us through that model. So Lloyd George are very robust in their assessment, and I think that's been confirmed by the city. So we felt comfortable with that, and I think there's enough tolerance there in the assessment to ensure that we can operate and meet the noise regulations.
All right, thank you. Further question, this obviously didn't go to a design review panel, but could I please have your comment on how you believe this is consistent with the objectives and principles of SPP 7?
think when we look at the site layout and the context of the area, this is a commercially zoned property. Its intent is for a neighbourhood centre according to the strategy. It's a portion of the site that is sloping, so we've utilised the land quite well. We've maximised that the ability to ensure that we can operate successfully, but also have an interface that is respective of Queen Street and the residential properties to that southern side, and also utilising materials and incorporating that public art feature and landscaping. I think when we hit that built form and landscaping aspect, it is a service station. It is a fit for purpose type built form. It does incorporate good design features and robust materiality as well. 7-Eleven build these service stations to ensure that they have a 20-30 year lifespan, and they have a set design features which is being employed on this site. I think this is another element as well. 7-Eleven aren't currently in Geraldton, and this is one of the 2 sites that is going into Geraldton. There'll be another development application likely coming towards the DAP in the next couple of weeks for their second site. So it's a positive commercial new business coming to town, which is a great outcome from a business perspective as well. So there's a lot of aspects there from the 10 design principles, but I think generally I think we've sort of met them.
Thank you very much. At this point, if there are no further questions of the applicant, no more hands up to ask questions? No. Thank you, Mr. Watson. We'll now refer to the officers from the city, Ms. Brown and Mr. Hall, and I'll go back around the room again. Mayor Clune, did you have any questions of your officers?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colliver, did you have any questions of the officers?
None from me, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hergott, did you have any questions of the officers?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hyam?
No, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Gosh, okay. Actually don't think I do either. Looking at my notes, my one question was in the R13 on landscape, and I think that was more than adequately answered. In that respect, did the officers have any comments that they wish to make or anything that they wish to follow through on, given the questions and responses that they've heard?
I guess, yeah, just reiterating what the applicant has already stated is that it is zone commercial. Service station is a discretionary land use, and it is consistent with the planning framework and generally complies with the local planning scheme provisions. And we're going through the application process. We were able to, obviously there were submissions, objections, some concerns there that we were able to work through with the applicant and have them resolved. Well, not mitigated.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And President Mayor, if I may just add as well that we did take on board the feedback or the concern that was raised around the traffic and it being done on one day. We did consult with our traffic engineering officers at the city and asked if that was sufficient from their perspective, and they confirmed that it was. And that some of the other points that were made around lighting, trees and noise, they've all got conditions that have been imposed. And just to summarise that, it is a new business into the region, as was stated, which will offer new services and goods to the community. And we're pleased to present the RAR to you today.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. All right. No further questions at this point. We will continue with our agenda and to the item. And we have a recommendation from the local government to approve this application, subject to a number of conditions. Do I have a mover, please, for that as the primary motion? Ms. Hergott's happy to move that. Do I have a seconder, please? Oh, Councillor Colliver, is that right? Yes. Thank you very much as seconder. Ms Hergott, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, I think it's an appropriate level of development for the site. From a technical perspective, I think the traffic issues have been more than adequately addressed in terms of issues that have been raised. Peak demands on Tuesday, cheap fuel days, the queuing on the site, and also more particularly how vehicles larger than a standard B99, so waste vehicle, service vehicle, and a fuel delivery vehicle will be accommodated. I'm comfortable with the protocols that will come into play in terms of fueling up vehicles towing a trailer or a caravan. In terms of the overall traffic impacts, I'm satisfied that those have been addressed and that the parking will be sufficient. So I support the motion to approve.
Thank you very much. Councillor Colliver, as seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. Look, I'm mindful of the number of submissions that were received against the development, but noting that a majority of these were not relevant to planning decisions. I do note, however, the concerns of the residential properties in close proximity to the site, and I do note their concerns re the traffic, the noise, the light intrusion. But I'm satisfied, excuse me, that these concerns have been addressed and will be managed well. The subject site is zoned commercial and proposed land use is consistent with objectives of the zone. The proponents are local and have successfully run a number of businesses in Geraldton for over 50 years. They have a very community-minded approach. So I am, really confident that they will do this well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other speakers? Mayor Cologne, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd like to speak for the motion. There's a couple of points. Firstly, on the landscaping solutions to that, what is the standard approach is it can't be taken, but it is. They're going to use the verge and improve that, and we're going to lose a mature tree, but for giving that up, they're going to replace 2 more mature trees, so that will be a little bit better off there. The traffic, it's always a thing about traffic and the capacity and that there, but I think the impact study certainly shows that it's well below capacity. It can take a lot more traffic if required, and the crash data there was quite surprising when I read that. It's very low and has not been any real significant accidents except for one over the last 5 years, which is great to see. Also, with the allowance for a B-double truck to come and fill the site up, most fuel stations only do have a single trailer truck, so the design of that looks pretty good, how that will handle the refilling situation. And the noise, I think they're going to be managed, those impacts on that. Pointing again to the submissions, there were the city did go out and reached out to the community around this development, and we did receive a lot of submissions back. A lot don't really refer to this panel and how to answer them as far as viability and how many service stations there are. Certainly with the noise and the traffic certainly answered within the submissions, within those concerns. Talking about Delaca Street, looking at my grey hair will show you that formerly there used to be 5 service stations on that street, and there are none at the moment. So if this gets approved, there will be a service station back on that road, which is basically a filler to residential areas, and that it's not on a highway. So I don't think there'll be a lot of caravans pulling in there to fill. It'll be single vehicle ones. Also, to talk about the wind, and the wind up here tends to be a buffering thing rather than enhancing the noise, so I think it'll be a lot good. And the other panel member mentioned cheap Tuesdays, which I don't think are relevant up here in this area. I don't really know that cheap Tuesdays and people willing to drive all over the city to get to a cheap fuel station. So I think it'll be a great filler for the area, and people will vote by their feet. It's not our decision of of supporting the business or not, that will be for the public to decide, but it's under a planning form. It seems to meet all the criteria, so it is in the commercial side. So I have no hesitation in supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clune. Mr. Hyam, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Oh, sorry, just one there.
What do you need?
The proposal satisfies the planning framework, so I'm more than comfortable with the use and its location. It seems to be a suitable location within the town centre, as the previous speaker has indicated. And I'm also quite satisfied that the conditions that have been suggested will address any amenity issues raised by the neighbours. What I would like to do is to propose an amendment to the 18, which is the landscaping condition, and to change that or amend that to the wording which was given to us by the officers in the R13.
I'm happy to second that.
Okay. That condition, where it's worded now, is much clearer and explains in greater detail what is required to satisfy the condition.
Thank you. As seconder, I concur with Mr. Hyam. When I looked at it, it was something of a concept, and I felt required more detail rather than being approved. I would just suggest that, no, that's okay. I've reread my notes, I'm okay. That's just a complete replacement of condition 18 with all the relevant wording. So I'm comfortable with that and look forward to further detail in terms of species types and locations and so forth. Ms. Hergott, did you wish to speak to the motion, the amending motion? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I saw your hand up there. Any other speakers on that amending motion? No, we will put that amending motion to the vote. Those in favour? It's unanimous. Back with you, Mr. Hyam.
Nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. I will briefly speak to the motion as we have before us and amended. I note that service station is a D use and that there's no obligation to advertise this application, but it was, and I do note the number of submissions that came through, but as other speakers have highlighted, a number of their concerns were matters beyond planning consideration regarding the number of service stations in the area and other matters of commercial consideration. But I find that the use is quite acceptable under the scheme and that the technical matters have been thoroughly assessed. It's consistent with the objectives and the function of the commercial zone. There were some concerns raised in submissions regarding traffic, but I've listened to the panel and I'm comfortable with the analysis that has been done and comfortable that there is indeed a delivery management plan to be in place through the conditions. I think other concerns regarding light and glare, I think increased illumination is often part and parcel of an environment, an urban environment, and one that is growing and with infill development. And I think that is just the case of things. But I'm comfortable that there are conditions and also Australian standards which govern levels of illumination and the types of lighting to limit the impact and intrusion upon the surrounding community. I think that this will add surveillance to the area and certainly provide services to the community. So I'm comfortable to support the motion. So with that, I think we refer to the mover, Ms. Hergott, to the right of reply and to close the debate.
Okay. Yeah, as indicated before, I'm supportive of this development in this location. I think that all of the questions and issues that have been raised during assessment and in the context of this meeting have been adequately addressed. I think that there's the measures, proposed management measures in place will more than adequately manage any issues or perceived issues that may occur in the future, and that it's sufficiently robust that it can be amended, updated, modified as necessary to address anything that may come up in the future.
Thank you very much. With that, the debate's closed. We'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour? It's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Just briefly to close out our agenda, we have no Form 2 applications and no SAT reconsiderations on the agenda today. Part D, other business. There are a few SAT applications for the regional DAP in the Shire of York, Shire of Dardanup. There's one in the town of Port Hedland for the mixed-use development on the road reserve at Parola Court. And there's another in the Shire of Capel. And with that, I would like to thank the elected members and panel members and officers and presenters for this part of the agenda, and draw the meeting to a close at 9 minutes past 11. Thank you.
Thank you.